like to introduce myself. My name is Kevin Leil. I'm a Star Wars artist. I do product development and artwork. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our Rebels panel for the morning, afternoon, whatever it is. So please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Garrick Hagon, Biggs Darklighter, and fellow Yavin pilot, Mr. Jack Klaff, Red 4. And everyone's favorite Solistan, Mr. Mike Quinn. And let's make it for a big cheers for our Mr. Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca.
What a day.
Check, check, check.
Welcome to Wintercon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I thought I'd kind of start our panel with the beginning, and I'll just, Garrick, I'll start with you. If you can talk about how you got introduced to Star Wars. How'd you get into the film?
Well, all of us, all the American guys in London at the time who were of a certain age, and don't go back, it's 40 years, isn't it? 40 years ago. 40 years, almost 40 years ago, we all went up to meet George, and all on an equal basis. Yep. And I think George had a little card like this. I didn't, and he marked us out of 10, apparently. And as far as I remember, we didn't actually read. I didn't read it. I don't know whether Jack read or Mike, but I didn't read anything. We just talked. And I was told before I went in that George wouldn't talk very much, so I talked as much as I could. And he was marking something or other on that card, and I guess I got a mark that enabled me to get Biggs Darklighter. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
I never met George Lucas. I never got interviewed. I'm not American. I have absolutely no idea why I got the role in Star Wars. Somebody phoned me up. My agent was a very, very posh English person. She said, "Hello, Jack. I'm afraid you're going to have to go away from Shakespeare just for a little while. They're doing this film called Stan Wars." It was written down on her piece of paper as Stan Wars. She thought it was some guy. Nobody had a clue. Nobody told me anything about it. I didn't audition. I went in, there was a lot of noise. They put me on a board and shook me up and said, "Do I mind being blown up?" And they put something over my face after they blew me up. And then in the corner was a little guy with a beard. Everyone had been shouting, and he went, "Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good job." And that was George Lucas. I was there for 2 days, and I filmed for about an hour, and I haven't done a signing for longer than most of you have been alive.
Yes, there you go. That's one of these. Thank you. Yes, excellent. Like Jack, I never auditioned either. I was kind of fortunate because the movie before Return of the Jedi in the same studio was The Dark Crystal, and we'd also done The Great Muppet Caper. It was a 2-picture deal with Lou Grade. So basically, they just commandeered all the puppeteers from Henson to work creatures on Return of the Jedi. And my character Nunb wasn't established, of course, at that time. So I was just brought in as a generic puppeteer to help with the reuse, or I assisted Tim Rose with Snoodles and Akbar. And being a puppeteer, you can go from character to character. So we just went from one puppet to the next as they came along. I got to do a baby Ewok as well and help Frank Oz with Yoda, because Frank was used to using me with Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear and helping him. So that's how that worked. So I guess right place at the right time, right? Or something like that.
As we all were.
I just have to say one other thing. I'm going to write a book about it, and I too had an affair with Harrison Ford. I think you should.
Yes.
That makes 3 of us.
So we had, yeah. All at the same time, by the way.
Yeah. No wonder his dressing room was up on the 3rd floor. I got a call for an interview at Elstree, went down there. walked into George's office, and George had a storyboard of all the characters. You got the three in the middle, Vader at one end, and the walking carpet, as it was commonly known, at the other end. I looked at Vader and said, 6'7", not big enough. You know, not for me anyway, because I'm 7'3". Yeah.
7'3", ladies and gentlemen.
So I sit down on a sofa, door opens, a little man with a beard, as been described, walks in. I do the obvious thing, being English, I stand up. He had Gary Kurtz with him, and George turned round, introduced himself, and said to Gary, I think we've found him. And
For the rest of history.
And that is, the rest is history, and it's one of those wonderful stories, you can't make it up.
And
It's true, and consequently, within a day and a half, we were down at the costumiers, getting the costume made, getting the mask made, and within 2 weeks, we were filming on Docking Bay 94. That was the first shot Chewie ever appeared into.
Nice.
So that was, and the rest is history, and consequently, it's going to be 40 years next year, and we're going to enjoy it.
And one of my favorite things about Chewie is seeing Peter's sparkling blue eyes. That's one of the things I love to see on screen. So,
There you are. Oh, Blue Eyes is back. I must tell you, I sat down and one of the assistants here, thought that I was Chewie. He said, hello, Chewie, and I had no idea what he was talking about. But this wonderful gentleman here said, I should have said, I'm not Chewie, I'm Crunchy.
So I'll open the next question to any of you. Do you guys have any good Star Wars story sets?
Star
stories
Wars
from the set.
story is a good one. Well, where from? What point? I love
No, any one of you. If you guys have a good anecdote, or
okay.
I specifically asked Jack Klaff this about an hour ago. He's like, I've got good ones, and
Well, the first thing is, this is a weird thing, but I actually teach storytelling, believe it or not. And one of the things that is helpful, because I had such a tiny part in Star Wars, is to talk about story itself. Because one of the great reasons why this has been so successful is it is modeled on old myths. The mythical structure which George Lucas discovered hadn't been used. It's been used in movies, of course, in westerns and so on, but story itself is celebrated by Star Wars. So that's my first story, is the fact that if I'm telling stories and I start with the fact that I was in Star Wars, it's a good way in.
I think, going back to Docking Bay 94, Jabba was a big Irishman because they hadn't found anything on the computers that they could create to make him look like Jabba. It wasn't until the special edition came out that you actually saw what Jabba looked like. And he, Declan Mulholland was his name, he used to come to conventions, and his title was the only man to be filmed in Star Wars and never to appear. So, he was a wonderful storyteller again, and he was just remarkable. But, there's so many, especially if you go, all right, we're dealing with Star Wars, you deal with all the other stuff of Empire and Jedi. There's so many stories got floating around that you cannot remember everything, and you can only be in a certain place at a certain time. That way, everybody has a different story.
I like Mark. When I first met Mark in the wardrobe, at my wardrobe fitting with John Marlowe, the costume designer. And I love the fact that the very first meeting we had, we threw our arms around each other as actors will do. I thought, well, wait a minute. We had no idea that the film would go on to the history that it has now. Yep. And I thought death would have been a good thing at that point, because when you die on film, you get a lot of camera coverage as the camera zooms in and everybody cries. And that was my initial meeting with a guy that has remained a friend right up to this time. And I just saw him earlier this year at Celebration, and it was wonderful. And he said again, he didn't realize he was repeating the line, but he said again, I asked for you guys to be in The Force Awakens. He said, oh no, you couldn't have been, you died. So this has remained my theme song.
Well, let's see. I remember, one of the first times I'd worked with Harrison Ford was when he was coming out of the dungeon, I guess, after he'd been awakened from the
Jabba's palace.
Yeah, and I think I was working a tentacle that grabs 3PO or something through a...
No, that was in the monster.
It was the... there was
Minox.
It was... Is that what they were?
Yeah.
Well, down in the there was like a little gutter in this passageway, and it was filled with water. And of course, I was a 17-year-old Star Wars fan myself, working on set. So that was amazing in itself. But then out steps Harrison in his Han Solo outfit, and of course I was completely intimidated. And I just said, "Hi, Harrison. Good morning." Step back and put my foot into this gutter full of water, my shoe filled up with water. And I'm thinking, do you think he noticed? If I just act cool, perhaps he won't even notice anything. But he may have done, I don't know, but I think he was a gentleman, and he just smiled and said, hi, morning, and it was very nice. So I think I got away with that one. But let's see. Now, we've all been in, we're all pilots, and talking about the X-Wing or the cockpits. Now, back in the original movies, they were all rocked around by stagehands, weren't they?
Yeah.
We were just on like a gimbal, and they'd rock us around. Now, I got slightly motion sick in the co-pilot seat because I couldn't see out. I was underneath the puppet, so we're looking at a TV monitor. So it was like being in the bottom of a ship at sea. It was the worst thing ever.
That's a real admission. The X-Wing pilot who gets motion sickness.
Yes.
We're a hopeless bunch, really.
It's terrible.
And Bill Hootkins had to tear his up the back because he was too big for it. And I don't know what... But I had to learn how to hit this Texas Instrument thing that we had in front of us to pretend I was pushing controls. I don't know what happened to you.
I didn't get any controls either. I didn't have an audition. I didn't have controls. I'm starting to feel very, very left out here. But it was a whole lot of stagehands, and the platform was wooden, and they shook you, which was great because it's quite difficult to do that. So they actually did it for you, and they said, do you mind being blown up? And you said yes. So but the thing is that once they'd done the sort of juddery thing. Oh, there's one thing I forgot. George Lucas told me to do a bit of looking. That was an extra bit of acting. So I didn't get to press any buttons, but I did some looking. And then they blew me up. Yeah, thank you very much. Honestly, all my years in Shakespeare and Chekhov and stuff like that, nothing to do with that look. But when I finished, the thing was, I don't know if you had this, but they blew you up. Well, you died as well. So they blew you up, and then they gave you a wet rag so you could breathe.
No, but nobody's described the art of light that went over the top of us. That was the ingenious thing.
Yes.
They had a light on a gantry that went over us to make us look as though we were rotating. That was how primitive. And the camera itself was a very old camera, very historic camera. So we were surrounded by antiquity. And nowadays, you wouldn't have any idea. It's all digital nowadays.
No,
but we were the original pioneers.
Garrick,
I'm surrounded by antiquity. What are you talking about?
Garrick, you talking about the old cameras?
Yeah.
When we did 7, they were using the original dollies
There you go.
and the cans of film
Yeah.
and nothing digital or very little
No, exactly.
digital
Yeah.
was digital. You were talking about the movement of levers on the whole of the Falcon of that front desk. There were 2 movements, 2 levers that actually moved. So Harrison would pull one, I'd pull the other one, and then we'd swap over. And we're up on one of the sets. It's about 12 feet high. And we're in there, and someone calls lunch. I'm in the pilot's seat. I've got the full mask on. Everybody buggers off. Everybody goes to lunch. I had to let out the biggest Wookiee yell that I have ever done to get someone up there to take the mask off and get me out of the damn thing. So, it's
Give
crazy.
us a Wookiee yell, Peter. Come on.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's the hungry Wookiee. Never cross a hungry Wookiee.
Our work here is done.
So, Mike, I got a question for you. I remember we
Okay.
did an interview a couple years ago on a stage much like this one, and we were with Tim Rose, who had just been
Yes.
announced he was going to be in episode 8, and I kind of asked him a couple questions. Of course, he couldn't answer it. And you sat there the whole time with your mouth shut and didn't say a damn word. I congratulate you on being able to keep a secret. But
Thank
you,
you.
of course, were in episode 7.
Yes, it
So,
was a secret for a year and a half.
You kept it very good. I mean, I sat and talked to you for an hour, and you didn't say a damn thing.
Yeah, well, you didn't ask.
Yeah. I would have. Okay, fine. Are you in episode 8?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't expect to get an answer from that.
You're lying.
But so, what was it like when you were, doing whatever, and I guess they reached out and contacted you and asked you if you wanted to be in episode 7? That must have been a.
Yeah, I mean, I'd always wanted to return to the character while I still could, and it never happened in the prequels, sadly. So I was disappointed. But yeah, I mean, I knew that they were resuming these new trilogies, and so I actually actively sought out JJ via a musician friend who knew him very well. In fact, it's Thomas Dolby, the guy who did She Blinded Me with Science. He was a friend of JJ's, and I'd done some music videos for Thomas. So I said, hey, could you just pass on this note to JJ for me? And apparently, I think it helped. He received the note, and JJ was a big part of making sure he brought back what we're known as the legacy characters, Admiral Akbar and myself, and I guess, I don't know, the original actors. But they could have used other people, but they had respect for the fans and for the characters and the continuity to bring us guys back. And that was a really lovely, amazing, surreal, beautiful thing. And I'm just so grateful.
Peter, if I can ask you this.
You never know what you're going to do, what their plans are, because they don't tell you. And I got a phone call from JJ. We would like you to, if it's possible, to be in the episode 7. Sure. And I explained the situation. He said, don't worry about it. We will work around it. We will find other people. And we had a great time doing it, and it was great fun. And the new cast are absolutely wonderful people. John, Daisy, all of them are great people. You don't see that on screen, but apart from, you get them off screen, they, anything goes, basically. And John, being a Cockney, has got a wicked sense of humor.
Yeah.
And you can get away. He can get away with almost anything. But I thought it was rather nice that JJ had personally phoned us and said, we need you. Can you manage it?
That's fantastic. Kevin has told me that there's a baddie in the new one who looks like me when I was young. Is that right?
Yeah, that's one of my questions. Is up here. Since you wanted to jump the gun, I want all of you, especially guys in the back, if you got a phone, look up Bond and tell me this doesn't look like Kylo Ren. I mean, look at that. So I'm thinking like you were on the Rebel base where Carrie Fisher was on the Rebel base. He don't look like Harrison Ford.
Is it in the book? Is it in the
Was
book?
it difficult to wear? Very heavy?
No, because it was mohair. It was a knitted mohair suit. It got a bit sweaty and nasty, but that's what you use fans and cooling agents for, to keep you cool. It was no worse than 3PO or Vader's, because Vader's was wool and leather, 3PO's was a metal suit, and he could not move hardly at all.
I must just tell you, because we've all had this. If you have a face cast done of yourself, it's really not that pleasant, because they cover you over and they cover your nose. The only way you can breathe is through your mouth, and it can be a very claustrophobic feeling. So you're absolutely right. It does take it out of you.
Depends who's doing it. I know. I mean this seriously, because Stuart Freeborn did my face cast. I had two straws up, a straw up one nose, and he said that you can keep your eyes closed, because we are going to cut them out and put your eyes in there. And it was just like going to the dentist and having a denture made. Slap it on, let it harden, and then work on it. It was interesting. It was interesting to see, and getting it done by Stuart, who is was number one man in the makeup, was really nice. He had an old barber's chair. I sat back in that and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then as he put the gunge on, it heated up, and I went, You could feel it like turning an oven up. It got really warm. Anyway, next.
Thank you.
Wow, we have a lot of questions.
We'll give it that.
Hi, this one's for Mr. Mayhew. Well, whenever you're filming in the Millennium Falcon, I mean, you're 7'3", and that cockpit is not very big, obviously. So how hard was it getting in and out of the chair?
I can't hear that.
So the question was, going into the cockpit, how hard was it to get in and out of the chair?
Fortunately, when they built it, they put racing car seats in.
1973, I was told.
Yes. Racing car seats in that slid back. And on the bottom, the seats there, over here, you have a big hole so that I can get my feet through. It stopped, and halfway down, there was a rod that I could put my feet on, and instead of sliding forward, because we didn't have any seat belts, it was hard, but you do something more than about a dozen times a day, it's easy to get into. I always used to go in first, because when you're a Wookiee my size, you need a lot of space to get in, and Harrison would always come in afterwards and fill in the background with Carrie or Mark. So I was always first on set and first in. So, okay.
All right.
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm from Queens.
I like the way he talks.
Yeah.
You too.
I want to thank all you guys for coming out.
Thank
come
you.
check out the Lando booth soon.
Oh, thank you very much.
So my first Star Wars experience was November 17th, 1978. Does anybody know that day? Okay, no, probably
The
not.
holiday
because it was-
special?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah? Oh, God.
It was the holiday special.
Hey, he brought it up, not me.
I know. Can we throw him out?
I watched on my grandmother's Zenith TV. It was about this tall,
Yeah.
that wide, back when TVs were furniture. So my question is for you, Peter. Can you tell us a little bit about the holiday special, your thoughts on it, and what it was like filming it?
You've seen it. I ain't going to tell you about it.
I seen it.
You know it's the family coming back.
I enjoyed it, but then again, I was 4.
It was great because Chewie takes Han back to Kashyyyk, right? And with the family, my wife, let's go through the family. My wife was a 6'8" guy. My son-in-law or father-in-law was a student. My daughter, my son rather, was a girl about 3'6", 3'8", and we had Art Carney as Trader Dan, and B. Arthur was the video where she's cooking in the thing, and suddenly 6 arms turn out, and poor Marla didn't know what the hell had hit her. And it was great. I enjoyed it. I don't know. I can't see why George didn't like it, but that's your opinion, my opinion, and we'll do it. You do it, and you had 4 sweaty Wookiees after the end of a shoot like that. But we did get champagne that went on the wrap party afterwards. We got champagne and a nice big check. So, to me, it's good. I enjoyed it.
This question is for all 4 pilots. When you're filming in the cockpit, everyone can just see mainly your face. Did you ever wear pants, or, the X-wing pants, or did you ever wear like sweatpants or pajama pants, or nothing?
You ever wear
No, we were completely naked.
I like it.
Boy, you've got a great mind. Wonderful.
Are you
I never
referring?
thought about that question.
You gotta be comfortable, right, while flying?
And I think I was costumed from my feet up. They didn't want to see me on the set without my full Rebel pilot costume.
You have to know that at that time, we were, there's global warming now and climate change. In the 1970s, everyone said there was going to be an ice age. And we were filming in the middle of the worst drought. Do you remember that drought? It was, we weren't, it was the first kind of big, you're not allowed to use your hose pipes. So what I'm trying to tell you is it was really hot. But we were costumed up, top to toe. Just a quick story about John Mollo, who was the costume designer. I met him at one of these conventions, and I was in another movie he designed, because he designed Gandhi, and I was in a film called King David that he designed. So I went up to him, "Hi, John, how are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm here, yeah." And I said, and I just suddenly said, I blurted out, "My God, you won 2 Oscars." He said, "Yeah, and here they are." And he was sitting there with his Oscars. I guess somebody was going to sign them. But one of the most remarkable things I thought when I looked at him was he turned round, and it was mainly Star Wars, and I thought, this guy designed all the things that so many people are wearing. Must be an extraordinary experience for him. Anyway, we were top to toe.
Yeah, that John Mollo was incredible because I talked about when we went to the wardrobe fitting, but he was picking out the costume for Biggs on Tatooine, and it was just at random. I had talked about wearing a cape when I was doing a film in Morocco for 6 months, and lo and behold, out came a cape. Then we had the Russian jacket, a Russian shirt. And then because this was all costume stock from Angels. And then the leather pants. He put together a costume for Biggs on Tatooine that was absolutely phenomenal. And I liked that particular costume and those particular scenes on Tatooine very, very much as a result. And the little model looks good, even the model.
So yes, of course, for Nunb, he has a one-piece suit. It was redesigned by Michael Kaplan for The Force Awakens, but it is still a one-piece suit, so you have to wear the whole thing, including the boots, whether they're seen or not. Now, of course, when we're doing shows like this of an evening, we'll sometimes swap pants just to see how they feel. Tonight we have I think I have a 30-minute booking with you.
We go to the party, and sometimes I swap with your wife.
Okay.
Ooh.
This is the first I've heard of this.
My name is Keith.
It's a friend of mine.
This question here is for Mr. Mayhew. I was wondering, how many actual chess matches has Chewbacca ever lost? And are there any surviving witnesses?
Chess matches. I had before we shot that, I had never played chess. So it's a good bit of acting with 3PO and everybody else. We had about 6 or 8 cameras on that particular set because it was the middle of the Falcon. You've got Harrison over there playing with the controls, Mark and Alec playing bat and ball were there, and 3 characters playing chess. The actual chessboard is now in Disney. They found it in one of the warehouses, and it sits in the one of the exhibitions that Star Wars have had, and it sits there. You can go and see it.
Very nice.
I was just going to say one phrases that I remember from that shooting period in Elstree was "Let the Wookiee win."
Yes.
That was our pet phrase.
Yep, let the Wookiee win.
I just want to say that gentleman was there. He had a Guinness. You have a Guinness. That is a wonderful drink. I've drunk so much Guinness that I'm actually turning into a Guinness. You see the black with the foam on top? That's what happened to me.
You know, Jack, I'm glad you brought that up. That Guinness shirt is probably one of the finest designs things you'll see at this
Alec
convention
Guinness.
or any convention.
I like Guinness.
And if you look closely, it says Kevin Leil on the bottom. That's me because I designed it. That was cool. Thank you,
Kevin
man.
designed it.
That's my shirt.
Kevin
Get
designed.
it? It's Alec Guinness shirt.
He has designs on you.
Did you, Jack? Did you get it? It's Alec Guinness. Guinness. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, we have time for one more question.
I love your design. I think your design is marvelous. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time.
We
We have time for just one. Oh, by the way, it's not chess. It's called Dejaric. You non-nerd. Dejaric. We have time for one more question, sir.
Okay, this is for all the pilots on the stage. In between takes, have you ever gotten into characters a bit too much, just to goofing off by any chance?
Can you say that again?
Okay, like in between takes, like when basically setting up for another shoot, have you ever goofed off in the cockpit, in character?
When they cut and you're just sitting there strapped in.
Yeah, when you're working with Carrie Fisher, it's a goof off every time. And Harry and Mark's just as bad. So they will see a situation, and if she opens her mouth, nothing, or everything comes out from her brain. There is no stopping her, and she just carries on, and usually makes the tension go away. Therefore, that's a goof off to me.
Yeah, and as a puppeteer and a creature performer, you tend to stay in character when you have the puppet on or when you're wearing the character. You sort of just somehow you maintain that character the whole time. So there are lots of opportunities to well, the thing is, the character can do stuff that you can't do as a human. You can be insulting and say rude things, and act drunk or whatever. So it's a wonderful opportunity to bring out that other part of you that otherwise can't come out as a human being. So yes is the answer.
Well, no is the answer, because I think George just said to me, do you know all the lines? And I said, yeah, I know the lines in order. And he said, well, yeah, just do them. Do them one after the other and look around the sky and look down here and do that. And that's what I did. So there was no time to goof off, because Jack was waiting out in the heat and he was ready to come on next. No time at all on a film set to goof around. Only the stars can goof around.
Oh, yeah, there's no goofing, because, it was a conveyor belt. Although I was a very serious young man in those days, and so while I was waiting around, which was a couple of days before I got my bit to film, I actually read a Russian novel. That's really embarrassing.
In Russian.
Okay,
And you're rushing.
And in closing, I just want to do one last thing. If we could do a group selfie, because I'm a narcissist.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You can pay us
Fantastic.
later, okay?
Oh, absolutely. I'll pay you each one of you. I certainly will. But before we end, I just want to let you know that the Saber Guild would like to induct Mr. Mayhew into their organization, if they can come on up.
Oh, wow.
We're going to have a huge group of Sith and Jedi coming up here.
Nice.
One who looks suspiciously like Jack Klaff. No, we'll watch it. Ladies and gentlemen, my boss, Captain Zork.
Ladies and gentlemen, who's enjoying this panel so far? Okay, this stage is going to be empty for an hour, but come back at 2 for the Road Warrior panel. Also, in the smaller panel room in the back of the hall, there is a Ghostbusters panel about the origins and development of the story that became the famous movie we know as Ghostbusters. That's going to be happening right now. And we have special guests having their photos taken in our photo booth with those of you who want to take your pictures with them. Go back to the photo booth and see the schedule for the coming hour. And finally, if you are a cosplayer and had to check a prop weapon at the front desk, you may collect your prop weapon and carry it with you through the convention. You cannot carry real weapons and do not carry prop weapons into the casino. But if you have a prop weapon, you can pick it up at the front desk and carry it through the convention. And now, back to the show.
Oh, can I have my stage back? Okay. Just want to say thank you very much for the autograph area. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good day.